Join us to get exclusive and rare access to some of the industry's best leaders. Leaders who will share all their secrets to success with you. Leaders who have closed thousands of successful deals between them, generating hundreds of billions of dollars. And leaders giving you the roadmap to fast track your career and reach the highest echelons of the business. So welcome to the Investment Banking Leaders Podcast and best of luck on your growth journey. We have another awesome guest for you all today, an inspirational female leader and serial entrepreneur. I'm extremely excited to be joined by Monika Nickl, the founding partner at TCG Corporate Finance in Munich. And across her 20-year investment banking career, Monika has been involved in scaling not one, but 3 M&A advisory firms. Starting at Munich & Company, a small boutique startup in Munich, which in a 13-year period saw rapid growth and was eventually acquired by Raymond James. And at Raymond James, as MD and head of consumer DACH, Monika again led the business through the build-up of the European consumer business and growth phase. But after 7 years, back in 2022, Monika and her former co-shareholder at Munich & Company saw a gap in the market and co-founded TCG Corporate Finance. And in just 2 years, TCG has become one of the fastest growing boutique M&A shops in European history, completing numerous tech and digital deals and growing to 30 plus professionals in 4 locations. They are ambitious as well as focused on further growth. So it's clear to me that Monika and the team are building something truly special, and I'm really excited to learn more. Also, having got to know Monika, it's clear how passionate she is about M&A work. She shared with me that it is without doubt the best job in the world. So this has clearly been a strong foundation for her many successes across the years. So welcome to the Investment Banking Leaders Podcast, Monika, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, very happy to be here.
Thanks. Why don't we just start with you telling our audience a little bit about TCG and what you're doing for your clients?
Yes, happy to do so. As you just mentioned, I have quite some experience in investment banking, and after leaving Raymond James, I have discussed with my former co-shareholder Harald Merle about seeing what we refer as a gap in the market. And we indeed saw a strong consolidation in the investment banking industry. And that we thought is the perfect starting point for founding a boutique advisory firm exclusively focused on tech and digital deals. So that was the idea when we started TCG, basically a boutique M&A advisory with all capabilities of a professional investment bank, active all over Europe. We have now 4 offices, over 30 professionals, and we just do what we really can do well. So this is tech and digital. We have 4 focus sectors: tech services, software, digital health, and digital consumer. And what we also very strongly sell to the market, we have a strong entrepreneurial background, as you just mentioned. And we also wanted to do something different from the traditional investment banks, meaning that diversity is definitely part of our culture. We have a strong belief in digitalization and also making M&A more transparent. I think that's also the basis for building a great team and building great leaders. And yeah, we are advising on sell side and buy side in Europe.
Amazing. And again, congrats on the growth. History making, as I mentioned in the introduction. You touched on a few things there. Anything else particularly that you feel has helped you to break history and be the fastest growing boutique?
I think it definitely helped setting up basically 3 businesses from scratch. So it gets easier when you do it the third time. So we built Munich & Company from scratch. And to be honest, where we are now with TCG after 2 years, it took us a good 10, 12 years to be there with Munich & Company. So that was the first time. Then the second time with Raymond James had no European M&A activities. So it basically was also building both a brand and a business from scratch. And then if you do it the third time, it definitely helps. You have the right relationships with the market to how to set up a business. So that made things easier.
Perfect. And as I mentioned, serial entrepreneur, 3 times you've been through that journey. So you've obviously learned on the way. What specifically have you learned from establishing and scaling 3 different businesses or 3 different advisory firms?
I think 2 things. What you learn when building up businesses, I think building up a business is never 100% smooth. So you definitely learn to push through challenges, and you learn to adapt. Often you start with an initial idea, which was in TCGs, that basically there is a niche below the large investment banks. And then we went to the market and got active. And the truth is, we are positioned next to the large investment banks. So this is something that you just learn when you are out there in the market. But I think what is equally important, being an entrepreneur and investment banker at the same time, is who are my clients? They are very often entrepreneurs, founders, and it helps a lot if you understand from scratch what it takes to build a business, what kind of dedication is needed, and ultimately what honor it is that you as an advisor are allowed to sell such a business that has been built over years. And I think, yes, a consultant investment banker can understand to a certain level, but if you have done it yourself, you really understand what it takes, and it's an honor to sell business.
That's amazing. So you can really relate to the entrepreneurs you're working with because you've been through that process
Yes.
yourself, and seeing the challenges and seeing the gaps is obviously something you've become better and better
Yes.
at over the years. That's excellent. Let's talk about teams. That's obviously a key part as an entrepreneur when you're building and growing a successful business. So what is important to grow successful teams and cultures from your perspective?
I think it's several elements, and maybe just to highlight a few, I strongly believe in trust. I strongly believe in empowerment, and I also strongly believe in being transparent. So that means, referring to trust, I think it's important to empower people to do more than they think they can. So at Mummer and Company, also at TCG, we had a strong belief, and we have a strong belief that you can build an employee within 10 years to a great managing director. And as a company, you have to be so good that this managing director will be very well educated, very well trained to do the job. He will be an excellent managing director. But you as a company will be so good that this managing director does not want to leave you and found his own or her own company. So this is something that I strongly trust in, building up teams, empowering people to do more than they think they can. Also, transparency. I don't believe in not telling people what their bonus will be. They should know what they are working for. I'm very strong in also recognizing achievements, ensuring that people feel valued. So in the investment industry, it's often very stressful, and you forget to say thank you or say, hey, you have done a great job. And so it's in the little details. And what I strongly believe in, and I think that also helps to grow companies, teams, and cultures, is just consistency. It will not always be easy, but you always have to fight for that inch, for that little detail that makes the difference between being good and being excellent. And that's not always easy, but you will learn. And if you teach your team that you can do that, I think that's very valuable.
And is it you just modeling that, what great looks like compared to good, or is it other tactics that you apply?
I hope I do. So I hope I can represent that and be like the North Star and role model. But we have that in our DNA of the company. So we clearly communicate it to the team. We have strategy sessions about it. As said, we try to empower the team and give them responsibility.
It's amazing. Great. And I can definitely see how that's great foundations for a strong culture and for a strong team spirit. I want to just come back to recognizing achievements. Obviously, we're a recognition business and long hours in investment banking, as you mentioned, and the industry doesn't always have the best reputation for recognition. Could you share some of the approaches you have to recognizing achievements and how you do it successfully?
Yes, I think it starts with the little things, as I just said. I think achievements have to be recognized by telling people, and leaders often forget to proactively tell people, hey, that was good. They often say, hey, this is a mistake and there's a detail missing, but they forget to say, hey, this was really good. This was really great. So it starts with the little, but then for sure, I think it's what we call a TCG work life money balance. It's just you need to also reflect achievements in what I call money. So especially if you are young, I think one of the ambitions working in investment banking is having an appropriate salary. So I think if you're working good, you might need to find incentive structures that reflect the achievements. And without going into the details, we have established a remuneration structure that reflects achievements. So I think that's another element. And then also, I think it's very helpful if someone in the team, especially on a junior level, achieves something that you help the person to grow and develop, give them more responsibility, more customer facing roles. So just build the person up. And I think if you do that, you recognize achievements and you also help the person to become the best self.
I love that. So obviously, I think in the moment, the little things you mentioned make a huge difference, right? We all good to give the feedback to improve things, but if you can recognise the successes, that's great. And I'm sure compensation, as you mentioned, remuneration is a key part as well as growth. So thanks for that. It's great to understand how you go about that and has helped you build the cultures that you have over the years. Obviously, investment banking is competitive. There's a lot of opportunities out there. So for those listeners that want to ensure they're in the best environments with trust and empowerment and the right recognition processes, what advice would you give for them to pick the best environment to succeed?
Yes, I think I would like to refer to a penguin. So you need to think about yourself as a penguin. So penguins can only swim very elegantly in water, and on land, they look silly and like wobbling around with their feet. And if you have the feeling that you in your work environment are like a penguin on land, you are probably in the wrong environment. In particular, if there is no water inside. I always tell people you need to find the right environment because this is key for your success. You can be as good as you want to be, but if there is no leader and no environment that fosters you and helps you grow, provides the water where you can elegantly swim, then it's difficult to succeed. And I think what also helps, in addition to this penguin story, is like look for a role model in your job. Look for a leader in your job. Look for what we call a North Star. You need to have someone that you think is really a great person and I would like to become like this person. And that will help you to succeed in an environment. There's nothing wrong about your work environment aligning with your personal and business values. And if you found the right environment, I can tell you, you will know.
And if I'm looking for that environment, maybe getting into investment banking or looking for making a change, is it looking at the leaders that's the key thing then from research and
Yeah, I think it's several elements. First of all, if you're a junior, you should look at the team, the persons that you are working with. You will spend more time with them than with your friends or family. It's just the truth. You should look for how the team structure is built, if there are people that will help you grow, or if there are people that will try to keep you down using elbows partly.
okay.
And then in general, I think you also need to think about where do you want to go? So it's always about strategy. What is your midterm, long-term strategy, as well as what is your daily execution looking like? So daily execution is more like team and boss, but long-term strategy is also about looking at what is the sector that is really my passion that I could really be successful in particular, if you're like a woman like myself, it's you should think wisely about which sector you pick, which company you pick, also thinking about maybe staying in the job for a longer period of time. So yeah, I think that those are the elements that I would like to mention.
Perfect. And you touched on sector there, and I know from our conversations that sector you believe is really important for your
Yes.
success. Can you share a bit about that? Why you feel it's important for success, and any advice again for finding that sector that's really going to help you
Yes.
to have a great career?
I think you need to look at M&A in general because M&A, the process itself is okay. It's not magic anymore. It has been 20 years ago, but no longer. So if you try to win deals in the future, AI will change your business. But what you really can be good at is being subsector or sector specific and knowing the details and the value drivers and the key success factors for companies in your subsector. So if you look at investment banking as of today, you should not only think about how I develop my career in investment banking, but basically what is my swim lane in the future. And it's not always easy if you come right from university that you know, hey, I want to work in, I don't know, software, because you have no clue how this business is working, how the people are. But what I recommend is always like on analyst associate level, try to work in as many subsectors, sectors, industry as possible. Find what you like and also have a look at yourself. What I am really keen about, because if you find something that is really your passion, then it's not work anymore. It's you love your job and you don't have to work anymore because you love anyway what you do. And just referring to myself, I started in tech. So I did tech services, software, telecommunication. It was always nice. But then I did my first consumer deal. And it was like, okay, I found heaven because I love consumer brands, D2C models. And it was so much more fun because I could relate to it. And that's what I also recommend to people. If you find your passion, I think that made things a lot easier.
To see how
We need to
powerful
also
that.
talk about the negative side, maybe. So you also need to look at markets in a way like what is the future, especially in very dynamic environment like it is right now. So cannot always focus on passion, but you also need to see what is the right sector to be long-term successful in.
Yeah, sure. No, I understand that, and I can see why it's powerful to align yourself with a sector that where you're interested in that sector anyway, or you have a passion about it, and it makes the work more fun. So, thanks for sharing that. I want to go back to the comment you made about a leader, a north star. There's so much said about mentorship. How important is a mentor for growth? I think that's the first thing, and the second thing I'd like to know is a bit about what are your recommendations to find the right mentor.
Yes, very good and very important question. So, for me, and also speaking about my personal history, a mentor is incredibly important. And for me, a good mentor provides guidance, but more so challenges yourself, challenges your thinking, and in an ideal case, also sees potential in you that you might not recognize yourself. So for me, a mentor needs to push me out of my comfort zone and helps me to become my best self. And speaking about my personal history, if I joined a company that was consisting of two people, a startup company right after university, and Harald Melville Mummert, they were mentors for me from day one. And I would have never ever been where I've been today without that mentorship. They believed in me, they saw the potential, and they challenged me in the best possible way. And a mentor does not always have to be easy and comfortable. It has been discussions and whatever, but it's just unbelievably precious for a successful career. And also referring to the second part of your question, how do you find the right one? I think it helps if you look for someone that you could look up to that does an incredible job in the everyday business. You sometimes admire the person for what they do and from what you can learn. And I think very important is it should be someone that is able to challenge you. If someone only validates your own ideas, it's not the best mentor. They need to kick your ass, to say it that way. And that's not always like in companies, you often have a formal mentor that takes care of you. So this is great. But sometimes the mentor that will really develop you, it's not your formal mentor, but it's someone that you might pick because you think he or she could really provide valuable advice.
Nice. So looking out for that and keeping your eye out, but certainly as echoed by many leaders, it's important to have someone in your corner there and to get out the comfort zone by the sounds of it. What about networking? Because again, I know you believe it's key to success and you've done it really well as you've scaled and built businesses. What advice do you have for those listening that want to be exceptional networkers?
A very easy advice that I learned over the years is that you don't start networking when you think you are at the right level. So in our industry, probably VP level, then you need to start to build your network and the company might help you to build your network, but that's the wrong approach. You need to start building your network when you start working. day one. Because the truth is, when you're a junior analyst, there will be junior analysts in private equity, in law firms, in other investment banks, and you should try to connect with them as early as possible. We had a private equity set up, M&A set up in Munich, where all the juniors met like once a month, and it was and it is great because we really grew with each other. So just wait 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, and then you will all have leadership roles, and you don't need to build your network, but you have your network with everybody working in the right PE firms and right lawyer offices and in the right investment banks. And I think that's the most valuable advice that I could give to juniors. And then the second advice that nobody wants to hear, and I mentioned that before, I strongly believe in consistency. So building networks is about being consistent. You just don't connect to people and then let it go. You need to follow up. You need to follow up regularly. You need to basically foster the relationships, sometimes also on a personal level. And that's the truth about building networks. Very easy, consistency.
And are you doing it mostly on LinkedIn, email, other strategies?
On my level, I have networks established, so it's more about follow up. It can be a good way for juniors if they want to connect to other juniors in the industry to use LinkedIn, because there you have a good overview, but it's also helpful to refer back to university and respective investment banking clubs or something like that. You should also push yourself to go to meetings, to go to fairs, to go to M&A events. Also try to push your boss to get you invited in such events because it's helpful. Always those cold handshake meetings where you are really, when you're a junior, you're really hesitant to join. Those are the events that will bring you forward. And normally people, it's something that you need to learn. People are willing to help. So everybody's willing to help. You just need to take advantage of that.
Thanks. Great advice. I just want to take a step back and go back to you scaling businesses. So you've obviously been skillful at recognizing gaps in the market. We talked a bit about that before, and particularly with TCG, given your rapid growth. So keen to know what's been key for you to really recognize gaps appearing in the market.
Yes, first of all, you need to stay curious. That's something that you need to do yourself. So, trying to keep up on industry trends, customer pain, and more also technologies, and asking questions, asking yourself questions. What is the problem that I really need to solve here? And so, it's not always easy to find the gaps in the market yourself. So I would recommend that you listen to market participants. That can be commercial diligence providers, that can be clients. They often reveal needs that could become your next big idea. And networks, we just talked about networks. It's difficult if you sit in your investment banking office that you think that you can find the gap in the market out there by doing desktop research. That's not working. You need to connect to the market. And also, one very helpful advice is gaps in the market will not be found, or most often will not be found by looking at competition. It's the other way around. You need to make competition look at you. And that's also maybe true for TCG, because when we founded the business, people always ask you, are you not afraid of competition? When you build up a M&A boutique from scratch in this environment, in this economic environment, and my answer always was, my competition does not change. It's still the same people. It's still the same setup. The only thing that changes is myself. I'm in a different setup. And yes, we saw a gap in the market, and we saw the gap basically from industry experience, talking to private equity, to their needs. They told us, hey, we need managing directors working on project, helping our execution. And we learned that from the market. We did not see or define the gap ourselves.
Amazing. I love that. And I agree with you. That curiosity, that intentive nature to what's going on and listening to what's happening can really help you to spot those gaps. So again, thanks for that. Really great feedback. I want to sit really in the leadership area. This is a leadership cast. So let's talk a bit more about what it takes to be a top investment banking leader. Starting off, what advice do you have for aspiring female leaders in the industry?
Yes, I think one of the most important advices that I got when I was starting working from my mentor, Melville Muhammad, at that time, he told me, "You need to promise me one thing, and I will not hire you if you don't promise me. You need to stay a woman in your job. Don't try to become a man in this male dominated investment banking world because you will not succeed. Not because of this female male discussion, but just because of the fact if you try to imitate a male, you cannot be as good as a male. You need to be as good as a woman can be. You have other qualities that will be helpful in transactions, and you should not forget about them." So I think that's also the most important advice that I would give to females that would like to follow a career in investment banking. Stay yourself and use the strengths that you have as a female investment banker. And I could tell numerous situations where it was very helpful that I was a woman in a male dominated negotiation situation. And other than that, I think advice for junior leaders is, my favorite word is just be consistent, fight for that inch, always fight for the little detail, and try to be in the right environment, especially as a female. If you are in the wrong environment, there's nobody that helps you grow, you will not make it.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. And we all know that there is a challenge for the number of female leaders within the industry. So, what do you think can be done to increase the number of females in leadership positions, particularly in investment banking?
Yes, I don't think it has been mentioned so far, so I would like to mention it. I have two children, and I had my first child when I was still like associate VP, and my second child as a managing director. And I myself was faced with the question, do I want to follow this career? Do I want to be a woman in a leadership position despite having big family? So what I see in the market is that we have a pretty good amount now of junior female analysts, investment bankers, still not good enough, but still good. But what happens is that a whole lot of females drop out on the way to leadership positions because at some point they face themselves with the question, do I really want this? Do I want to work this hard? I might want to have a family, whatever. And this is something that the industry needs to take care of. Examples are law firms or strategy consultancies. They do a better job with that. So investment banks need to learn that women at some point in their career need more flexibility than men, but it's possible. And I give you a very easy example. It's like a baby is like an M&A project. Me as a managing director or VP, I never just had one project. I always had several projects, two, three, four, and I worked on those projects in parallel. And if you have a baby, it's another project. It will require time, sometimes more, sometimes less. You need sometimes flexibility because you have other projects as well. But it's possible. And it's important to understand for leaders that they need, for a certain period of time, give flexibility to women. And they need to understand that women want to be good at their job. They want to do their job. And it's important for them to succeed. And I think that's just, it's a very easy, but it's not very easy in reality.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And there's great advice there, particularly around the flexibility area that you mentioned. And as you said, it can be done. And with the right support, hopefully it will be
Yes.
easier.
Maybe
So
what
thanks
I
for
would
sharing.
like to add is it's very helpful if you have a role model because we talked about right environment and how to succeed. I think it's important if there's a role model sitting there that tells the junior females, hey, you can do that, it's much easier.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. In terms of becoming a great leader, what skills do you need to be a top leader in the industry?
I think you need a combination of sound technical skill, but also emotional intelligence. For sure, junior years, it's all about working at the desktop, but later, other things will become more important. So you need to be able to manage and motivate teams. You need to be able to build client relationships. You need to navigate complex negotiations. So this will not be just about technical skills, it will be also about your personality. And next to being an investment banker, I have one great passion. This is sports and fitness. And I think you can learn a lot from that and apply it directly to leadership. So I mentioned, and I will mention it again, the importance of discipline and consistency. So if you work out, you train regularly, athletes train regularly to improve their performance, and leaders have to do the same thing. They must commit to personal growth, to being disciplined about their job, to being consistent also through difficult times, to difficult economic environments, and help their team to be the same way. Second of all, teamwork is crucial. So, sports wise, but also in our industry, I'm nothing without my team. Even if I'm the best MD, I'm nothing without my team. So, you also asked me before, I think trust, transparency, empowering is very important for a successful or great investment banking leader. And last but not least, I would say resilience. You need to learn to overcome challenges in sports, but also in business. So having a growth mindset and encourage your team to learn from mistakes, because there always will be mistakes, is really essential to become or be an investment banking leader.
The resilience I hear a lot, and learning from mistakes, growing, I think is super important. The apprenticeship of investment banking, as you will, that I hear a lot as well. You talked a lot about growth mindset and developing your skills. What's really helped you grow as a leader outside of those mentors we've already talked about? Is it certain books? Is it podcasts? Is it certain training programs? What's really helped you develop?
I had training programs, analytical training programs. I had mentors. I had training on the job. For me, it was very helpful to have coaching sessions over a period of several months that really helped me to grow, develop as a leader, really understand how you also can be a successful female leader. And I then applied that in day to day business. So, what also helped me a lot is to grow and develop is learning from my team, also from junior team, learning from experience, learning on projects, getting feedback. And I think that's it. I did not use books or podcasts so much for really educating me for my job. This is more learning about the market, but not for growing in the job.
I guess learning by doing is one of the strongest ways
Yeah.
to do it. So thanks for sharing your route. In terms of biggest opportunities for leaders today, if I'm a VP about to move into a leadership role or an MD role, or I'm early in my MD career, what are the biggest opportunities for those leaders today?
I think it's the whole market is a huge opportunity at the moment. There are so many things changing and things reshaping the industry. Just think about innovation like AI and what it can do, like research and modeling and writing information memorandums. If someone is a VP today, I'm 100% sure in 5 years, the work of the junior team will be completely different. And this is a huge opportunity from my perspective to really reshape the industry, the whole M&A industry, and focus on the really important elements. And big opportunities also just the market itself. After a drop down post corona, we now see the market coming back, and there's no better situation than getting from like a economic downturn into a situation where the economy starts to grow again. Best possible time to become a leader. And last but not least, I have to say that I think building diverse teams, helping to include women, but also other team members, will make work life in general much better than it is today.
Thanks for sharing that. I love your positivity towards the opportunities that are available. And I guess let's build on that, because you mentioned AI a few times. Any insight into how you're using AI and what else you see in this area that's going to be critical for the next few months and into 2025?
So maybe starting with AI is a big word, but what it's really about is the database that you have. So the data that you have, because AI is just a tool to use the data. So what I see critical for success as an investment bank M&A boutique, you need to gather data about the subsector that you're working in, delivering comparables when you're going to a pitch. They want to understand how the market works, how are my cross margins in relation to the competitors out there. So this is like industry insight, AI very important for that, data sets very important for that, but then also speed of work. To be honest, if you need an equity story, use AI, mouse click, you have a full equity story, it takes 1 second. If you need a buyer universe, 2 mouse clicks, you have, don't know, the 300 best possible buyers, and companies in our industry start to build their own databases, and this will change the industry. There will be players that will be better at that, and there will be players that maybe are laggards in this situation. So this is definitely something that will change the industry and that we need to talk about. And then the second element that I see changing, or that everybody in our industry is faced with, is just technology per se. Every industry does, you don't have to work in tech. Every industry is faced with the explosion of digital model, the addition of tech, the think about AI, also the meaning for different industries and how they will change marketing, PR. It's a completely different business model now. And you as an investment banker, you have to see that. You have to consider that also when thinking about likelihood of sale, what will happen to maybe the swim lane that you are in. If you have been working in digital marketing for the last 10 years, oh, it will be very different the next 10 years. So you just need to see what is changing and challenging the market.
Thanks for that. And the database, I get it. Again, looking forward, being aware of what's happening in your sector, in the industry, how that affects you, and looking for the opportunities makes a lot of sense. I read a good article by Craig Coburn recently, a retired banker, and I hadn't connected with before, was that he was saying that the service levels expected from investment banks clients will probably rise with
Yes,
AI. So whereas AI should make the work less onerous, actually the expectation might rise higher. Do you
I,
agree with this? I thought that was
I
a really
fully
interesting
agree
statement.
with that. What we see in the market is
Mm,
the client really wants your brain. How
mm,
consulting usually works, you have the junior team doing the details and all the work and whatever. But what the market really requests, and that's probably what you also refer to as they request more services or more valuable
mhm,
services, they want to pick your brain. They want senior people working on projects. They really want your experience, and no AI can deliver that. And that's also, I think, why our TCG business model is so successful, because we deliver that. And I can only confirm
mm.
proactively from the market that what you just said is very true.
Thanks for that feedback. I'm sure Craig will be happy as well. Shout
Yes.
out to him. In terms of just the outlook for 2025, what is your outlook for next year?
If I would know that, I would be magic. But I think the M&A landscape will still be dynamic, with tech deals being at the forefront. What we currently see in the market, that a whole lot of private equity players cannot really decide if their companies in the portfolio are exit ready or not. So what is ongoing a lot in the moment is these exit readiness workshops, exit readiness assessments. Q4 2024 right now, we see more deals coming to market than the last 12 months, I would say so. Deals still being mainly on hold, but mid-sized transactions, we see a pretty strong pipeline. So what I expect from 2025, I would think it should be a nice and dynamic year for M&A. Still not that easy. Valuations, the truth is, good companies always get good valuations and very good interest from market. That's still true in 2025. But the environment is still difficult for companies that had difficult economic situation post-corona. Not magic, but it's. I'm also not going for predictions that are negative.
No problem. This is recorded in September and it will obviously go out to the audience next month. But it's nice to see that you see movement, and I hope we are, after the last 18 months, moving into a bit of more of a growth phase
Yeah.
for everyone involved in the industry. Let's switch gears from looking forward to looking back. What deal are you most proud of and why?
I'm happy to tell you. One of my deals within the last 12 months was a food tech company focusing on egg convenience products. So if you think about McDonald's, it's basically the egg McMuffin, the egg in the McMuffin. And that
Okay.
company was sold to the largest strategic competitor, was a cross-border transaction and a close competitive situation. But that's not what made the deal special. The deal is special because it was the first, really the first female owned company that I sold in over 20 years. And that made me very proud. So, very happy
Wow,
about that.
great
And I
story.
hope there will be another company fully female owned soon. But what that meant is when we closed the transaction, I thought we need a very special deal toy. It needs to have certain female element. And well, it was an egg business, so we came up with some egg-shaped deal toy. I don't have it with me today, but we basically developed a Fabergé egg that you could open up, and then you have this golden tombstone. And it was the founder, the female founder, was so proud and so happy about that. So that was really a very nice deal for me.
Amazing. Great to have that milestone, and really glad to have supported you on the deal toy. We'll put a picture of it into the notes for those that are interested, and glad that it was appreciated by the owner. That's why we do it. So thanks. If you had your time again, what would you do differently?
Difficult to say. I'm super happy about how my life developed. So career wise, I would not do much different. I think, as mentioned before, should be very clear that if you want to be a successful leader someday, start networking very early. So from day one, and I would have been happy if someone would have told me. I started a little later, but that was a good advice. And I also think it's important in general not to neglect dreams. So whenever you have something that you have always dreamed about, don't wait for it, but do it right away. So I always planned to do a paramedic training before I started working. Haven't done it so far. So because I ended university one day and then I started the next day, and same when I switched jobs, I was
Yeah.
always busy, which is also good. But if you have a dream to travel the world, I think you should do it before you start investment banking.
Yeah, no, definitely. I had a dream to travel, and I was lucky enough to spend 2 years away, and I did it before I started my longer career, and I've always been happy about that. Yeah, follow your dream. What a great
Yes.
piece of advice. So we're moving towards the end of our time together, unfortunately. So a couple of wrap questions. Do you want to talk a bit about books? I know you said you haven't used them much for this kind of analytical part of the role, but any books or podcasts or materials that you recommend that have had an impact on you in some way?
You probably would like to hear from me about typical M&A books, private equity, and a whole lot of books, investment banking podcasts out there. But I would like to go a little different direction. So maybe two unusual ones. The first one is a film, which is called Any Given Sunday, pretty old, which includes the greatest motivational speech ever. We talked a lot about leadership and becoming a leader and being successful. So it's worthwhile watching that film because I have also motivated my team like that. And it's all about fighting for that inch. And maybe just to quote from the film, it's like the motivational speech that is held in the film is like, it says, on this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves apart, and everyone else to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing, between living and dying. And don't know if I quoted it 100% correctly, but it's really like if you are able as a leader to motivate your team to really do the little detail that makes the difference between good and excellent, I think you will be very successful in your career. And the second recommendation that I would give a book, and probably everybody knows this, is Steve Jobs biography. And it's very difficult to stay grounded in investment banking. We earn a lot of money, we are confronted with companies that earn a lot of money, and sometimes especially juniors that earn a lot of money lose reality a little. Job said you can wear a $300 or $30 watch, it will always tell the same time. And I think that's a very important message also because time is something that is very rare in investment banking. And so maybe two not so traditional advices, but I think very helpful for aspiring leaders.
I love it. You went a different route with the film. I do know it. The quote was great. I can see why it's inspiring. I've been talking a lot with my team as we've launched our new year in September about the extra 1% a day and how going that extra 1% each day for each other, for our clients, leads to a hell of a lot over the period of a year. So I really connect with that. And thanks. It got me motivated for the rest of the day. Anything I haven't asked you yet that you feel the audience should know?
I think you mentioned that you have some young professionals listening to this podcast, and I probably want to remind them that success is not always straightforward and linear. So there will be twists and turns and setbacks in your career, but it's most important that you're resilient, able to adapt to changing environments. You should never underestimate the power of a strong network. So surround yourself with people that challenge you, that inspire you. And last but not least, don't be afraid to ask for help because people will always help you.
That's great. What a great way to finish the session. So, Monika, I want to bring it to a close now. Thank you so much for joining us. For those that want to learn more about TCG and Monika, we'll put the links in the show notes. As I said, they're building something really special for the right people. I'm sure they'd want to hear. Thank you so much for spending your time with us when you're so busy, Monika.
Thank you very much.
This episode was brought to you by Outram, the global leaders in the financial deal gift, awards and recognition space. So if you need any assistance in these areas, don't be afraid to hit me or the team up. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, best of luck on your growth journey.